Okay, so this is the first type of quadratic formula. This is a rational solution. You'll see what I mean by rational solution at the end. The important thing is, though, this is not like every quadratic formula problem. So you want to make sure that you watch all three of these videos, because unlike the previous videos, all three of them are going to be completely different. Okay, so we always do, the steps are the same for quadratic formula, though. You always start by making sure it's in standard form. And by standard form, we mean that it equals to 0. Okay, so the first step is always to make sure it gets equal to 0. Now, if we're looking at this, it's not equal to 0 right now. It's equal to negative 4w squared. So I need to add that on both sides to move it to the other side of the equation. Remember, if I do it to one side, I got to do it to the other. And I'm going to add it to its like term. These two are like terms because they both have a w squared. So this cancels out, and I got 0. And over here, I've got 10w squared plus 19w minus 15, and it equals to that 0. Okay, so now it's in equals 0 standard form. Next, we got to do the a, b, c. So we need to see what a, b, and c equal for this problem. So remember, it's ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we just need to name what a, b, and c are this time. So a is the 10. Notice that it's not 10w squared. It's just the 10. It's just the number in front. The b this time is 19. And the c this time is negative 15. Notice that negative sign hidden in there. Okay. Now our next step is to plug and chug in the quadratic formula. So you may already have this memorized because we've done so many problems, or maybe you need to look in your notes. Remember, it's on page 58. So it's x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Notice how I put parentheses around everything because it makes it so you don't make as many mistakes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plug in a, b, and c here. So I got x equals the opposite of b. My b this time is 19, plus or minus the square root. Now I've got b again, so that's 19 again, squared minus 4 times a, which is 10, times c, which is negative 15, all over 2 times my a, which is 10. Now, if I'm looking at this, okay, I'd like to double check that I have all the things in the right spot. So my a should be in 2 places, up top by the 4 and on bottom by the 2. So that looks like it worked out. My b should be in 2 places. They're the first 2 spots. Yep, they're both 19. And then my c should just be in 1 place, the very end of the square root. So negative 15 should be at the very end of the square root. I always check this because it's really easy to make a mistake here. And if you make a mistake here, your whole problem is wrong. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify in 3 spots. I'm going to simplify up front. So I have the opposite of 19. The opposite of 19 is going to give me negative 19. Okay, I'm going to simplify under the square root. Okay. So I still have the plus or minus, I still have the square root, but I'm going to take all of this stuff and I'm going to pop it into Desmos, or you can use your calculator. Ms. Castor likes to use her brain there. I don't know. I like to use Desmos because I can actually see if I typed it right. So I got 961. Okay, and it's all over. This is my last spot that I like to simplify. 2 times 10 is 20. Okay. Now my next part is I need to simplify this square root. So I like to take it off into the cut over here and put the square root of 961 over here. The first thing you should always do is to see if it has a perfect square root. And it does. Look at that. So the square root of 961 is just 31. And I'm done. I don't need to try to see my perfect square that can fit into it because it is a perfect square. So I'm ready to just plug that in. So I've got x equals negative 19 plus or minus 31 over 20. Now, the plus or minus, it has two parts. It could either be positive or negative. So I'm going to separate this into two different problems. I'm going to do the plus problem first. So I can do negative 19 plus 31 divided by 20. And I could do negative 19 minus 31 divided by 20. Okay. And I'm just going to type those into Desmos. So I've got negative 19 plus 31 divided by 20. Okay, so I got 0.6. Or if you're on this Desmos, it does have this nice fraction button, which will tell you it's 3/5. Either of them are good answers. Okay, my other one is negative 19 minus 31 all over 20, which is negative 2.5. And I can always press the fraction button and get the fraction for it. So that's negative 5/2. So either way is correct. Okay. Now, if I'm plugging it into Desmos, okay, it wants to know the answer. So I know it is 0.6 and it is negative 2.5. I could also write them as fractions. So I could say instead of negative 2.5, I could have done negative 5/2. Okay, and just submit your answer on there. Okay, and we got it correct.